All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? Sorry if this audio isn't perfect. I'm actually driving through Jersey. So a lot of times this is the time I have to do these podcasts, or the individual ones, not when I'm doing them with other people. But today I want to do something. I think I'm going to come off as an asshole, but I could care less. And it's regarding problems. And I got a newsflash for a lot of people. I don't care who you are, you have problems. And you're going to have to learn to deal with them. And there's this Albanian dude I know that brought an Italian restaurant from a close friend of mine. And what was interesting is, anytime you complain to him, he would tell you, hey, I got my own problems. And I don't know what it was so funny, but there was such a significance to that when he said that to people. Even his regulars or people he just met, it was hilarious. He would do it all the time. So what's interesting is, and if you have, there's all different levels of problems, obviously, that people have out there. I'm not going to sit here and say that, this problem's worse than that problem, so your life is worse than this life. I don't know who you are, any of those things. And I'm not here to say that if, you may have, problems that are on many different levels. So that's you. I'm just saying. I'm not here to preach to tell you that I don't care about your problems or get over your problems. That was kind of a joke, what I was kind of saying earlier, what he meant. But the truth is, no matter what your problem is, you have to get over it. You have to. And also, I don't know if you ever saw that movie. What was it? Training Day? I loved it. No, it was Blow. I'm so sorry. Same actor. From Blow, when the guy was playing Pablo Escobar and Johnny Depp's character came up to him and he told him, they were discussing things about a deal, and then Pablo, the character, said, you know what, I don't like problems. And that's what I used to always say to my daughters when they were younger growing up. I don't like problems. But as time went on, I realized everything's a problem, right? And everything you think's not going to go wrong goes wrong. If you're going to be taking risks in your life and different challenges, that's basically going to turn into a problem, right? And a problem also could be something, not meaning it in a bad way. If you hypothetically say, I want to hike up a huge mountain or a hill, that's not the problem. What you're going to probably go through, certain things going to get to where you want to be, there's going to be things that come up that may be a problem. And you're going to have to learn how to conquer that. So no matter what in life you do, look at this cop, that sneaky son of a bee. No matter what you do, you're going to run across problems, especially if you have children, especially if you have parents that are still alive, and what you're going to go through physically in your life, you're going to have problems. I talk about that. If you want to live a long life, you better understand that you're going to probably have some disabilities as you get older, which are going to be problems. It's a problem because you have three options. I think a lot of times you die in your sleep, which is a great option or whatever. You're going to die from a disease, or you just die suddenly of, it could be an accident or something in that nature. But back to problems, I think also we blow our problem, like what we think is a big deal at that moment is really not that big of a fucking deal. You got to realize. And it may be a problem now, but it's really, it's so small in the grand scheme of things, okay? And I'll just go back to, and I don't want to bog everybody down with this, but my daughter had a liver transplant as a baby, so for the first year of her life, I think we spent more time in a hospital than out. I even lived in Children's Memorial Hospital in Chicago for a couple months, literally lived there. And when you going through with, what your child, her being sick, and emotionally what that does to everybody in your family, and how everybody reacts, and just on every level. And when you see what other children are going through, I did not realize how spoiled rotten I was, or how ridiculous I behaved if I didn't get my way, or blew my problems out of proportion. There's so many people out there that have disabilities, or there's so much sickness, and I'm not here to say that you have to judge your problems versus theirs. But if you really take a step back, for a lot of people, not everybody, and say, geez, like, what are you really complaining about? Are you complaining you can't afford something? Or are you complaining about your job? Or are you complaining about things like it could be your weight, things you can actually do things to make a change for the better. And also feeling sorry for yourself. And I get sometimes we all feel that way. And the thing is, you really got to overcome that. You really got to look at a problem as actually a challenge. And what's that? His name? How come I always forget that Navy SEAL? Where when things go wrong, he says this, Jocko. Where things go wrong, you say good. It changed my life kind of the way he thought of that. When I was making my first feature film or my first couple feature films, when you make a movie, basically I said making a movie is just constantly about dealing with problems. Because you have a piece of paper basically, it's a script. And the way you think the shoots are going to go usually never go that way. There's a million things going wrong. Weather conditions, audio, who shows, who's in what mood, who's hungry, who's moody, costume, does it work, does it fit, haircuts, the camera's not working properly, the audio's not being picked up. There's a million things that are constantly going wrong. All you're doing is putting out fires. Now, if I was a multi-millionaire, maybe, or I shouldn't say I'm multi-millionaire, if I had maybe multi-millions of dollars to make my films, maybe that's one thing. But I've done a lot of study on film, and a lot of times just because you have more money doesn't mean you always don't have the same problems somebody else has. Or because a lot of times more money doesn't always mean, less problems. I think I just said that. Anyways. So after going through what I went through with my daughter and decided to start making films, between those two things, especially my first film, I was so frustrated because I was in way over my head. I didn't know how to make a movie, never went to film school. And this is before I had to fax everything, because this is like in 1999. I never casted, I didn't know how to cast correctly. I didn't know about makeup. I didn't know about lighting. I didn't even know how to hold a camera. And I kept depending on other people to do certain things for me. And I kind of set myself up for a billion, obviously, problems and issues. But I got over it. And after going over what I went through with my daughter and my first film, when I made my second film, it was like almost a dream. Because not only because what I learned, but I realized how to deal with my problems and how to sit back and relax and say, don't be a prisoner of the moment. And this is just another challenge. And the challenge is good, because if challenges were easy, or a lot of people could do, well, if making films was that easy, obviously there'd be millions of films. Or not that that's even bad. It is getting easier to make films. But people, if you really believe in yourself and your project, you have to conquer that. And to conquer it is you're going to have to resolve a lot of issues. And most people quit. They don't keep up with it. Or they'll let one thing destroy them. And I've been there myself creating things. I actually went through that recently, creating an app, and I've never given up on anything. So I had an app called the You Around that I worked on for like 2 years. And I thought creating an app wouldn't be as complicated as it was, and dealing with programmers wouldn't be as complicated. Again, I do these crazy things where I want to learn things that are very complicated, I guess, to a certain degree. I know they're complicated because I research them, but I don't, when you get into something, all the things, and I just got exhausted from it. I needed a break from it. It's still up there, my app. I still have to make a lot of changes to upgrade it, but I wanted to do something else, which is my new program, Mastering Self-Confidence. Because I'm always I love helping people. So the app was to help anybody in a time of need, and then my program is also to help men who've been through a bad breakup or divorce, or also build up confidence, try to help men. The app was it was consuming a lot of my time, but I wasn't getting enough fulfillment out of it. And I didn't quit it. I finished it, got it up. I need to make a lot of changes to it. But that'd be the closest thing, I think, to something where when I start something, I'm a slow starter. I call myself the sloth. But I will finish it. I will be the turtle in the race. I don't care what it takes. That's good and bad. I've talked about that before. Sometimes you just got to learn to bog out. It's almost like a relationship I talk about sometimes. Just because if you're in a bad relationship doesn't mean you should keep sticking in that relationship and say, even if it's a marriage, like I'm going to be married to this person for the next 30, 40, 50 years of my life because I don't want to get a divorce, or I don't care how bad the relationship is. That's kind of ridiculous. And I think with projects or creating things or just wanting to accomplish things, sometimes getting out could be the best thing for you, because you need to be open-minded and make changes. But back to problems. Don't don't let also other people's problems dictate your life, I say. Because even if you're married or if you're in relationships, people have to understand you can only tolerate so much. But if you're going to allow people's problems and all their bullshit baggage come into your life and then you're bitching about it, then you're a problem, I think, right? You're kind of, it's not enabling. I mean, I'm trying to think about that. So yeah, I guess you're wrapping yourself up as well, I should say, into their problems, which is making you a problem. And you're not solving any problems. Somebody who truly wants to help somebody helps them solve the problem. And if they can't, help them get the right help they need. And if it's over your head, be honest. I know tons of people that are always trying to help people. They can't even help themselves. And I'm not saying you should shun anybody when they need help. That's ridiculous. But if you financially can't support yourself, hypothetically, you can't be supporting someone else or giving all your money to someone else, not to show faith, whatever the case may be. I'm just using that for an example. You've got to learn to get your shit together and put yourself in a position where you can help this person, but it's hopefully in the right way. Because I also think a lot of people who have problems try helping other people, again, bring them into their problems, and the person who had the problem brings you into their problem. Before you know it, you're all, what are you accomplishing? You really got to sit back and say, like, every situation in your life you're going through, I think, you got to analyze it. Is it helping you or really hurting you? You really have to look at that. Not everything you do is going to be right, and not everything you do is going to be wrong. But if you look at a lot of people in life, it's always about hindsight. It's like, hey man, I wish I would have done that when I did this, or I wish that would have happened, I would have done this. Let me get some water here. But I've realized lately, think of things in a hindsight position. A lot of times, like, if I do this, I'm going to look in the future. How am I going to look at myself in the future if I do this? Why am I really doing this? A lot of us, I think, are just doing things because we're being told to, or we've been programmed to think it's right. So we're always, like, kind of, I guess you could say cluttered, because we're just going through a routine. We truly never sit back and go, wait a minute, why do I work here? Because I seem to have a problem with my job, and it's making me very moody. I don't like the people I work with, hypothetically, or I don't like the company's values. I don't like this. I'm just using for an example. Not that I'm going through that. I'm just saying. Why do you keep doing what you're doing? That's a problem. And you can solve the problem. You just got to figure it out. Take the time to do that, not just kind of blow it off and go, you know what? Who gives a shit? The job sucks. I'm just going to keep doing it. Well, you don't realize, too, a lot of times how that's affecting everybody else around you. But just think about a lot of things you're also doing. It could even be like I know a lot of guys that drink a lot, and especially people that are on the road. And a lot of guys end up, functioning alcoholics because they have a lot of time. So with my time, a lot of times, now I'm shooting videos, podcasts. I used to write books and write screenplays when I was traveling. I can't stand sitting at bars. I think because I was kind of born and raised in the nightclub industry. I will go to a bar sometimes to watch certain sporting events, but I can't stand commercials. So I kind of lean off that, and I'll just watch it online if I can. But again, when they're traveling, a lot of guys, why are you drinking so much? Is it to fill the void of time, you're bored, or is it to go to a bar to socialize? Or do you go to a bar because you have, it's a place to talk to people? You could go to other places to do that as well. Especially now with social media, you can meet up with a lot of different groups depending on your traveling. But why do you keep drinking? Is it to wash your problems away? Or you actually have a pretty good life and you're actually creating a problem? You're basically becoming an alcoholic, which, I feel horrible for those people. And some people just like to drink because it's fun. God bless you, right? As long as you're really not, I know a lot of people that drink that are fun. They don't get DUIs. And they just enjoy their life. What's wrong with that? Right? I mean, that's something to think about. So sometimes what's interesting is what you may think is a problem for someone's actually not a problem for them. And you got to think about that. And that goes for his life as well, in general. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you do this too much. You read too much, or you write too much, or whatever you do too much. No, that's not your fucking problem, right? Mind your own business sometimes. And worry about your own shit. And sometimes we do want to help other people, but a lot of times, again, when it comes to problems, learn how to mind your own business and not kind of cause a problem. That's another one. A lot of people, I think, cause a lot of drama and problems and don't even, like, they could just come back from work and like, I can't believe this person said this to me and that, did this and this and this. You don't even know the person. Like, who gives a shit? And then you're miserable, then you kind of bring your baggage and throw it on whoever you're with. If you're in a relationship, now you're starting to act like an asshole to them. And you're like, why did you even come home to do this? Like, what are you doing? Right? Sit back, analyze. Why do you keep doing what you're doing? Do you keep causing more problems? Or are you solving problems? So my thing has been lately is I kind of nip things a lot in the bud. Like, I just want to nip it in the bud. If I could see sometimes, and I'll listen as much as I can, but if I see things like somebody's kind of fishing for an argument, that could be through a text, email, phone conversation, or even in my relationship or my kids, I'll nip it in the bud and say, where are we going with this real fast? Because I'd rather be blunt, because you're not going to I'm not going to let people kind of misconstrue, is that a word? Like misguide me or try to build me up or lie to me. Because I think most people, when they tell stories or tell you kind of what's going on in their life, it's kind of bullshitty. They either make it sound a lot worse than it is or a lot better than it is. It's very confusing, especially with social media, because you have all these people that I know personally that they're always complaining about other problems, finances, relationship, weight, all these. But if you go on social media, they're having a blast, right? They're saying they're at the gym. They're out having a wonderful time with friends on dates or at parties. And, back to finances, they're traveling here and doing this. And I'm thinking, I don't get where you're at right there. And I think people are confused in their life. And again, they're just creating more and more problems. They have like a false identity. Personally, oh my God, they want you to feel, this way. But socially, they want you to feel this way about them. And if you're close with them and really know them, you're like, what the hell are you doing? You don't even know who the fuck you are half the time. And that doesn't mean I'm telling you to go on Facebook or Instagram or wherever and start spewing out your problems, right? I'm not asking you to do that. What I'm saying is get a grip and kind of figure out, if you are financially broke, then quit traveling and quit going to restaurants all the time because you want to look cool publicly. Same with, personally, if you're looking for a relationship, I talk about that in my Mastering Self-Confidence program, start putting yourself in the right place at the right time around the women that you're interested in. Quit going to places that you've had nothing but, horrible experiences with. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm changing lanes here. I got a cop over here. So, again, figure your shit out. You're causing more problems. If you keep going back to a certain place and meeting the same type of women and they're not, for you or not working for you, you're, again, setting yourself up for what? Failure. It's a problem. You just don't want it. It's just a habit. People like having problems, and I think it becomes habit forming. And when things kind of do go their way, and I see a lot of things go a lot of people's way. Some people genuinely are very happy when things go their way, and they want to keep it going that way. But a lot of people, they can't have that identity. They need to self-sabotage themselves when it's going their way, because a lot of their identity is people feeling sorry for them and then being a victim. You can have people that, that are really starting to prosper in their life, and they will just, it's almost like they have to go out and ruin it. And they almost have to, I can't even explain it. I don't know why they could be getting certain results, even in the gym or whatever the case may be, and people may start looking at them and complimenting them, and it's almost like they can't handle it. What they thought they wanted a lot of times was what they get, and that almost becomes a problem, which is absolutely crazy, because they'll take something that they truly wanted and they'll get to that point. It could be a destination, or it could be just them physically, it could be whatever, and it may have not been what they expected, so they'll kind of now make a problem out of it to revert back to where they were. Instead of just saying, okay, I'm in this position, which is better, let's see what that leads to, right? It's almost being, you really got to learn sometimes, though, to solve a lot of problems is an uncomfortable position to be in, because you're going to have to sometimes do things that you don't always like to do. Because people are a lot of times complaining about who they are and what they're doing in their life, but will not change. They'd rather just keep living within this problem, which is, I think, a lot of the problem is their brain, their mind. Either they were programmed that way, or they let society kind of mold them as they got older. And I know somebody, I'm not even going to get into it, as I'm very close with, who had all the moxie and all the balls in the world when they were younger. They were so confident, I couldn't believe it. There was nothing. But then a turn happened in their life, and I don't know if someone said something to them, and they changed because they became more of an adult, because I'm talking about when they were younger as a kid, going all the way up. But when they became an adult, they were never the same. It's almost like they shattered. And I think, I don't know what it was, because their looks really, looks are looks. It wasn't like they became obese, and it wasn't like they became, even in school, it wasn't like, and they were, in a really great position when they were younger because they had all the confidence in the world. But then I can just tell what they fell into was just not feeling almost comfortable in their own skin, and that can happen. But I think they just always started to have a problem with themselves. They just kept seeing everything as a problem. They don't like the way their hair was. They don't like the way their nose is. They don't like the way their body is. They don't like, all of a sudden they start discovering all these other things, comparing themselves to everyone else. Oh my God, I don't have as much money. I don't get to do what everybody else does. All these things they just keep bringing upon themselves. Why? And I've talked about this in my program too. There's always going to be somebody smarter than you, richer than you, more handsome than you, or prettier than you, have better genetics than you. The list goes on and on and on. No one gives a shit. People think they're walking around and someone walks up to you and goes, hey, you know what? You're not as tall as I wanted you to be. Hey, you know what? You should be, you should be tanner right now, or whatever. If you want to be tanner or not, that's up to you. But, you know what? You don't have the perfect amount of makeup on. Or, you know what? Your eyebrows are screwed up. Oh, my God, your toenails, they're this. People, especially women, I hate to say it, a lot of them, they carry a lot of this, what is that person thinking of me? And it's very competitive. I think they also think that about men, which most men, I got a newsflash, they look at a woman, most of them, if they're not obsessed with everything you're wearing, what you have, hair, style, makeup. A lot of them could even care how big or small you are. They just genuinely like to be around a nice person. I think women are very competitive, where you have the man and the woman in kind of thinking of both of them, like, how are they both looking at me? It's almost very competitive with other women, and then thinking about, what is this man thinking of me? A lot of dudes, I think, on the other hand, they're lazy too, but most men, I think, but they're not that, some are, not saying all, but a lot aren't that obsessed walking around saying, you know what do my buddies think of me? Do you think my buddy's going to like my jean? Or you think they're going to dig my shirt? Or what do you think my friends are going to look at my haircut? Now, most guys could care less what their other friends think, I think. At least I'm around tons of them, and some would be like, hey, my buddy may like this shirt, I got to show it to him, or something like that. But they're not obsessed to say, hey, if I don't get a manicure now, my buddies are going to judge me, or if I don't do this or that. And especially with women, a lot of them are like, yeah, they want women to be attracted to them. Who doesn't? Most men. Because they want to be with women. Most men. Not all men. And this could go for gays as well, so I don't give a shit who you are either way. But if, they're not, I can't say they care about how they look, or they want, some don't, but they're not where it a lot of times, I think, destroys them. They still can go on, and they will still find certain things that make them happy. And I'm not judging men versus women, men are happier than women or any of that. I'm just saying, in general, I think a lot of times we get in situations where we bring problems on us. I think with men, a lot of problems is with money. If they're not making money, I see with a lot of men, they become more insecure, right? Or with men too, the job title. A lot of those things mean a lot to men. They love, I think a lot of guys too love to help their family members, their friends, somebody to protect them. It's on that type of element, really, that type of identity. And when they can't do those things, that becomes a problem for them, which is understandable. And that goes for women as well. But I think men identity a lot of times is wrapped up being, and I think it's a programming mechanism, being the man of the household or whatever, or being, a man that you could depend on, a man of his word, and all those type of things, I think really means a lot to men. So anyways, not even sure, but while we wrap that one in there, I'll probably get a lot of disputes regarding women saying, well, I could do this and that just like a man. I don't give a shit. I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying what I've seen in my life as far as problems. And believe me, men have their own problems with their own identities. Everybody, again, has identity, I think no matter who you are, you're going to go through your life having identity issues with yourself, because you're kind of going to argue with yourself saying, I feel like I should do this or that. I don't know how society is going to judge me this or that. I don't know how my family's going to judge me here or that. Same with women. And I also think no matter who you are, for the most part, I think we all get kind of depressed at times. Some at different levels. And I'm not here to tell anybody that, that's just natural, I think. So if you do fall yourself, I think falling into situations where you get depressed off and on or that, obviously if it's a problem, then you need to, go figure that out with a doctor or whatever. But I think sometimes we all take ourselves so seriously that we're like, oh my God, this is happening. I'm always this way. I'm always that way. Why am I? Just relax and chill out. Don't take your life so seriously, right? I mean, we've kind of bogged ourselves down, I think, with all this information. At least I could speak for myself, where before Google and all these other things, where I knew so many different things about all different illnesses and sicknesses and all this. I said, sometimes I talk about this even with politics, religion, or even anything. If you shut your news station off, right, and you just went and lived your life, and you weren't obsessed with the internet, finding out what everybody else is doing, you'd kind of just do that for like a week or two. You'd be shocked at how your life changes, because a lot of problems out there, they almost make you feel like, give you kind of anxiety. It can be something as ridiculous as North Korea, hypothetically, like, are they going to start a world war? All those things, which I'm not saying you shouldn't be informed. But when you hear it every day, it starts to take a toll on your brain, where you just kind of sit back and go, you know what? Life, like, these may be the good times in my life, right? I do have some problems, but, I have a roof over my head. I'm in a relationship. I have children that are healthy. My kids are in college, or my kids they have jobs, or, I'm healthy myself, or you may have some health issues, but they're not really drastic. Your parents are still alive, hypothetically. All these things, just sit back and don't get bogged down with all this extra information and a lot of clutterness that's may not even relate to you, right? Like, oh, if you, in 30 years, this may happen. It's something, in 20 years, this may happen to you, or they're figuring out if this happens, this may be this, and you're like, oh my God. It's just more negativity, I think, to a certain degree. And again, that doesn't mean I don't want you to learn as much as you can. I'm all about learning. But a lot of this clutterness that you're hearing, it's a lot of bullshit, and it's to sell advertising. And hopefully you know that. And one thing I will say I liked about the 70s and 80s to a certain degree before the internet, and I kind of realized that when I went to Italy for a couple weeks, is I wasn't bogged down with a lot of, and this doesn't mean I'm against our country. I love the United States more than anything. It's home. But from the standpoint of, I didn't have to, even on social media, listen to everybody's politics. Every time I put on the news, I didn't have to hear about politics or a lot of negativity and all these different things. I was just there enjoying meals, and I understand some of the language. So when I'm watching TV, we were kind of watching movies. We weren't watching news there, but I really didn't watch any TV really at all, except like maybe Italian soccer or whatever. But yeah, we were just eating and walking around. I understand it's a vacation, but still, my mind was just slowly but surely clearing out. And I realized a lot of the problems, or a lot of the things that I thought were problems, were just kind of things that I was bringing upon myself. And just to kind of be in an environment where it was just simple again. Life, I think, is meant to a certain degree to be simple. Again, that's just my opinion. Like, the smallest things in life are what I appreciate the most. It can be a cup of coffee, a good meal, hanging with friends, reading a good book, writing, creating myself, not watching 5 hours of TV and all this craziness. Even because I love ESPN, a lot of that stuff, a lot of it's nonsense talk. A lot of it's bullshit. It's just people giving their opinions, and before you know it, you're giving your, like, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? All this stuff, which is kind of fun, but just like anything, if it's overload. But anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there. My mouth's getting dry and I'm starving. I got to eat something myself. So I got a YouTube channel out, Rich CELENZA. I put a lot of different places. I go to all over North America. Hopefully Italy again soon. Yeah, I kind of put videos up to help people travel affordably. I do stuff related to fitness. I also have, what else do I got out there? I got my program, like I said, Mastering Self-Confidence, the blueprint to try to help men find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. this podcast. We're on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn as well. So I'm all over the joint. I also have a book. I don't really talk about that on my podcast. Wingman, if you like to read. That's a must-have guide to finding the woman of your dreams. And I kind of talk about things like I talked about today. And I want to start interviewing more people on my podcast and start doing things. I haven't had the time to do it. I thought I could start doing it on the phone, and we tested it. And the audio kind of shitty. And it's all about the audio on these. So I definitely want to start sitting down with people, especially my father. He's got a million stories. He's hilarious. I've been doing car shows with him lately. If you like cars, vintage cars, he's got a 1980 Golden Spirit Zimmer. He's obsessed with cars. He's always had all different types of cars his whole life. So I've been hitting car shows with him, which has been kind of fun. And I've been taking him different places with me as well. I took him to an Italian, a big Italian wedding. Well, not big. It was very some close friends of mine in one of the top Italian restaurants in Central Florida. They have a couple of them, and they got married. It was beautiful at the Positano Hotel in Orlando, which is a great place. And then we went back to their restaurant for dinner. And I took my dad there, and they were getting a big kick out of him. I've been taking him to balls and kind of galas. And he kind of quit going out for a while, but he's really kind of funny. And I know his stories better than he knows them. He's getting older. I have to correct him or add things in. It's kind of like a 1-2 punch. And I'd like to get him on there. I'd like to get my mother on there. I'd love to get both of them on there and actually question them on a lot of things, because I was raised in such different environments. I don't think my dad ever realized how religious driven my mother was after the divorce. And I don't think my mother realized how my father was kind of taking me into all these, this different lifestyle of adults, which included bars, nightclubs, comedy stores, comedy bars, whatever. Why would I forgot the, so, and comedy clubs and all different things. So I had two different lives kind of going on, and I would never really talk about the other one to the other one, not because I didn't want to, I just didn't. They were both in other relationships then eventually. And I didn't want to tell my mom what my dad was doing, because then she would put the brakes on it, and that was the last thing I wanted. And then with my mom, I didn't want to tell my dad about her being, at that point in time, I thought she was kind of a religious freak, which she was. And she may get mad at that expression. But the truth is, when you're a freak of anything, it's not that bad. I say, I was a movie freak, or whatever the case may be. It's not a bad thing, or a religious freak. I think people freak out on that. Who gives a shit? But yeah, I need to get them too on the podcast. But I've been putting up videos of my dad. My mom won't let me put up videos yet. I do put up photos of her. And what was interesting about them when they were younger, they were literally like a celebrity couple in Chicago. My dad was a very well-known hairstylist, and my mother's an incredible cook. But they just have that disposition and demeanor, and they're still around, God bless. And I talk to them every day. It was my father's birthday yesterday, my mother's birthday a week before that. I got my girlfriend's 50th birthday coming up, so it's going to be a crazy week. But yeah, so that's that. All right, well, let me see where I'm at here time-wise. 33 minutes. I went over. Way over. All right, guys and girls, thanks for checking out my stuff. I know I'm a lunatic sometimes, and I just say crazy shit. I try to be honest. I don't edit these podcasts. A lot of things, what I might say, I may change my mind. And I'm open enough to say that. Like in a week, I may be like, I didn't like what I said there. I changed, or I thought this way now. Sometimes I'm kind of stuck in believing things, though, for long periods of time as well, that I just stick to my guns. But if I get repetitive on these podcasts, sorry about that as well. It just comes to my mind. I don't put notes in front of me or any of that bullshit either. So forgive me on that one if it gets redundant sometimes or I repeat myself. All right? All right, well, take care. And if you're traveling, safe travels, and I wish you nothing but the best.